In this video, I turned 20 simple Dollar Tree and upcycled items into beautiful home decor projects. And throughout this video, you'll see me mostly using my TDS creative products for those transformations. You can take these ideas and remix them using whatever supplies you have at home. Let's jump on into it. Have you seen these large plastic gold trim chargers at Dollar Tree? No? Well, neither did I. I just recently seen these and I grabbed them because, I have fear of missing out. And let me show you the sticker real quick. I've had people make nasty comments about, why do you call those plates chargers? Because it literally says it on the sticker, okay? And it really is plastic. Little tappity tap tap for you. And people, if you've never removed a sticker from a piece of plastic in general, doesn't matter where the plastic is, sometimes you might melt the plastic. I have absolutely done this. But if you put your heat gun or blow dryer or whatever you choose to use on a low setting and do not completely put it up to your piece, you can gingerly get that sticker off of there. Depending on it isn't one of them stickers that has like that super kung fu grip glue. Nobody likes trying to get those stickers off. Then you got to soak them and it's a whole situation. We're going to keep this really simple. We're not reinventing the wheel here, and grab some transfers. Now these are my own personal brand transfers, my TDS creative product line, and we're going to take a couple sections out and layer these on top of one another to make a pretty design in the center. And you can take this idea and remix it, use whatever transfers you would like, or stickers. I have done this with Dollar Tree stickers before. I can't count the amount of plates I have created beautiful designs over. Normally, I will take gold gilding wax and rub around the edges of the plate. I really love that style and prefer using the glass or the ceramic plates. For example, here's one I recently did with a decoupage napkin design, and I even put the gold trim around the inside of the plate. But since Dollar Tree put the gold around the edge of these plastic joints, cut my crafting job in half. I figure let's grab a couple of these joints and give you guys some creative, simple, easy ways to be able to utilize these and decorate them up to toss in your home. Really budget friendly, and I feel like this is absolutely stunning. Love that toil transfer in there. And again, take this idea and use whatever transfer you would like in yours. How many of you have tried the Mod Podge glitter? If you have, give me a paintbrush down in the comments. We're having an interactive video today. Now, I wanted to get a little bit extra, y'all, and I busted out a deck of cards. My daughter collects card decks, and this is her least favorite, so we're gonna DIY it a few cards at a time. I've decoupaged cardstock many times, and this really isn't that different, but I haven't decoupaged a card deck, and I'm gonna start just decoupaging random things I haven't decoupaged yet, because why not? And besides, glitter doesn't really go on everything, so I thought it would go really good on the back of these cards with my pretty rice paper. Now, if y'all have never handled a deck of cards before, they're gloss, they're silky. We need to prep them up, and we're going to do that by using my multi-surface. No lie, y'all, this stuff is great for prepping things, but for real, it's crappy at covering up designs. It took me 5 coats. When each one of these cards on the front and the back, I was cranky, to say the least. But the actual takeaway from this is, people, these turned out so cute. I'm definitely going to be doing more cards. I love how these turned out. I wanted to use rice paper, and I would even recommend regular paper because this is cardstock and it's thicker, okay? So the thicker we're decoupaging a piece on here, the better you're going to have a connection, at least in my experience. You can absolutely do a napkin or tissue paper. I just feel like having something thicker on top of something thicker, especially with something like this, it was the best decision I made. And I just took the cards and trimmed out little sections down to size to fit on top of the card. And then I just used some good old Mod Podge. Now, y'all, if I was doing this on furniture or using this on an upcycled piece, normally I use a lot of Mod Podge, and I'll even wet the cardstock piece. especially if they're matte. This way it helps absorb and it helps attach to the wood or whatever we're upcycling. This is entirely different. I don't necessarily recommend spraying down your cardstock. Just a little bit of, and if you want to do a little spritz on your rice paper, you know, before you connect it to your card, then go right ahead. It's really not going to hurt anything, but you don't need to oversaturate it. All right, I did the same thing for the center, and I cut a big enough section out to cover up where we painted, and I'm just gonna pop some florals on here, use the same Mod Podge, and apply it down. And if I'm being honest, y'all, these turned out so cute without the Mod Podge glitter. I was almost sad to put it on here because I didn't want to mess them up. You know what I mean? Whenever you're trying something new, you just don't know if it's about to make things worse or better. But seriously, y'all, look at them. Look how cute they are. Anyhow, seriously, this stuff was really easy to use. And as soon as I opened it, I could tell that there was so much pizzazz going on in this jar. It's hard for y'all to see it, but I tried putting just a little dollop that I had gotten on my finger while I was opening it on my skin, just for y'all to see how glittery that was, just in that little teeny tiny swipe. Again, super easy. You just apply it like regular Mod Podge and then let it dry. And I did for 30 minutes, just like the bottle recommended. When I came back, it looked like this. And y'all know I had to put another coat on it, right? Because even though it's glittery, we needed a little bit more, because why not? Realistically, if we're doing it, we might as well go all the way. And people, I love this stuff. Not just because it's super glittery and it seals well, but also y'all didn't think. I know if you're watching at home, you're asking yourself, but does it rub off? Because I had these questions, and your girl's here to deliver, like always. So first I did the finger test, and nothing. Then I did the whole rub down test, and nothing. This stuff held up so well. And I staged them in one of my little cabinet displays that I have off to the side of my staging area. How flippin' cute do these look, just sitting on a teeny tiny shelf. They add just a little bit of something in there. You can really see that glitter popping on the backs of those cards, especially the one behind the rose. This large palette wall hanging shelf, we're gonna need to grab 2 of these Dollar Tree hanging home signs and 3 of the smaller Dollar Tree wood palettes. And people, truth be told, if I could have found the blank long wood hanging pieces, I would have bought those joints, but shoulda, woulda, coulda. We grabbed these. Here's my 3 palettes, and now let's start disassembling things to be able to reassemble some things. Taking these things apart really is not the funnest job. I've done enough Dollar Tree DIYs and crafts over the years to know 2 things. 1, a project like this, you're going to need at least 2 pieces so it's kind of sturdy and doesn't make you feel like it's going to fall apart. And 2, I hate covering up the back of these wall plaques, whatever you want to call them. So we're gonna glue the fronts together so this way they're blank on both sides, making it 1, sturdy, and 2, if you go to resell it or if you hang it in the house, people aren't going to know that it's a Dollar Tree piece. And I know a lot of people, and I've even done it, I don't know how many times, put the blank brown paper on the back, cover it up, all those things. It is just an extra step I don't want to do. I don't want to cut out the paper. I don't want to glue it down. I don't want to check the sides to see if it starts peeling back. I don't want to do none of it. So this just cuts a whole extra step out for me. Once it was glued, I clamped it down and then let it dry. When I was able to pop those clamps off, I grabbed me a paint color and gave this a coat of paint. Now, if you want, you could absolutely paint the whole thing. But the beauty part about doing this is if you want to leave the back blank, just leave it blank. Since I'm making a shelf out of it, that's exactly what I'm going to do. But I know most of you crafters at home would take this opportunity to make double-sided decor so we can switch it around. And I don't really blame you. We're going to need to make sure we allow all of the paint to completely dry before we carry on to the next step, because we're going to be gluing and drilling. It really depends on how you want to situate your shelves on here. I will tell you the best and sturdiest way is going to take a little drill bit, pop a hole in the back of your palettes, and then put a little screw in there. And the way this is built and constructed, you can absolutely do that. For time's sake, I just use my wood glue and my hot glue, and you'll see at the end for the reveal, it's definitely sturdy enough after letting everything dry for 24 hours to put a little pot on there with a heavy little ceramic piece. And you'll actually be surprised at how heavy this piece is when you're holding it. So it's pretty sturdy. If you're happy with your piece, leave it alone. I'm gonna add a little dazzling on here with one of my TDS stencils, and I'm not going to use the whole thing. I really just want to use the leafy kind of section and pop this green in here. Absolutely feel free to get as creative as you would like with stenciling. I just wanted the smaller sections, and I used a pouncer, offloaded my paint to try to reduce some of that bleed through, and left this alone. I used a jute twine and wrapped it around several times at the top so it looked nice, thick and sturdy and not cheap, just doing it once. And really love how this palette wall hanging decor piece turned out. I grabbed this piece, which is called Creative Mini Blocks, has some of my retired designs on here, and decided to paint the whole cabinet white so we could match this beautiful design. It's actually the first time I've used the design, and I was super happy about it. I sprayed the chalk paint with a little bit of water. You don't have to. I usually do that because it gives me excess paint, and it took me 2 coats to get complete coverage all over this little cabinet door. And using the larger brush, I was able to get full coverage each time in just about 2 or 3 minutes. Once the paint was dry in the center, I grabbed my medium. Use whatever medium you would like. I'm gonna go with some good old Mod Podge, and I grabbed one of my artist brushes in the fan style to apply a thin layer right on to that little middle square right in the center. I cut out a little design from our Creative Mini Blocks and sprayed the back with a little bit of water. You don't have to spray the back if you don't want to. It will absolutely apply dry. This particular block is called Patches of Her, and she is being retired on my website. At least in the larger design. Her teeny tiny design can be found on this new release paper. I decided to get a little creative and do different colors that match the decoupage tissue paper all around the edge on the cabinet. I made sure to clean off all around the cabinet really well before applying a thin layer of Mod Podge. I wanted to add a little bit of detail on the edges, and to do that, I'm going to be cutting out a couple little sections of my new dry rub-on transfer. This is called an Ode to Toil. This is an 8 by 10 inch set. There are 2 pieces in the set and lots of creative options for you to pull from to add to anything you're getting creative with. Just took out 2 pieces, rubbed on the edge with a little card. You don't have to use a little card. You can use whatever you would like. Once you are done your application, put whatever sealer you would like onto your piece. For this beautiful wood tabletop decor piece, we're going to be using the wood rose applique and this beautiful A4 rice paper. Now you could use one of Dollar Tree's wood rounds, but I had these in my stash, and as you can see, they're slightly thicker than the ones at Dollar Tree. They're also a little bit smaller than the ones I grabbed, and thought this would look beautiful decoupaged on here, along with this rose to match all the little rose bits that we have on this gorgeous rice paper. You could absolutely paint yours white if you would like. Doing that helps the designs pop a little bit more, but I love in a lot of my designs, I will keep the backgrounds with a cream so they blend into the wood. I really like that natural look and try to do that fairly often just to give you guys different creative solutions. Now my rice paper, you are able to spray it with water. It does have little fibers in it, super easy to work with and very, very manipulatable. So it has some give in it in the event that you stick it down in a spot and you don't like it. You can gingerly pull it back up without completely ruining your paper. or your project. If you're new to decoupage, I recommend starting out with a rice paper like this. It is not as easy to mess up if you're using napkins. Once I had this down in place, I let that dry and took some of my Dixie Belle gold gilding wax and put all over this wood applique. If you don't have gold gilding wax, you can use paint. They have gold paint, so you can pick that up at the store inexpensively and use that as well. And then I trimmed off the excess once it was completely dry. I'm just using a little finger sander for this. Feel free to trim off your excess with whatever works best for you. Then I took some of my quick and thick Type Bond glue and popped on the back of our applique and added it to our decor piece. Out of all the large wood plaque styles that they have at Dollar Tree right now for $3, this design is probably my favorite. And I thought this piece would look amazing as a large riser. Now there's a ton of ways that you can create risers, but of course I'm me and we're going to decoupage on this piece using some good old Mod Podge and one of my TDS creative fan brushes. Now I want to use the iron-on method with this piece, and we're going to plop a nice thick juicy layer of that Mod Podge on here, and I'm going to let this sit overnight. Once it dries, it will be completely clear, and then we'll be able to iron on whatever we would like to put on here. I'm going to be using my TDS Creative A4 in size rice paper print. Now, before y'all go rushing over to my website, thediystruggle.com, if it's before June 14th, this piece might not be available yet. I know, listen, it is one of my new release pieces with my summer collection, and I just had to use it, all right? I just had to use it. Now we're gonna bring on in my mini iron, and I am using this little Cricut joint. Y'all can use whatever iron you would like, and I always use the highest setting. Again, do what works best for you. Then we're going to bring on in the parchment paper, and I don't know, do I give this music? I can't remember. Y'all let me know in the comments below if we, if not, I don't know that it deserves music, but anyway, parchment paper, and y'all, it's just a great value stuff, okay? It's nothing, you feel what I'm saying? It doesn't have to be the name brand. And I often get asked, like, do I use a shiny side? I can't tell the difference between the shiny or the matte. I just lay it down and utilize it, okay? Before you go doing that, make sure you have your piece exactly where you want it, because you get no shots at this. The second that hot surface touches that paper, it is melted onto your piece and you are just done. So make sure that you have that exactly where you want it. I like to start from one side to the next. Some people go all over there and blah, blah, blah. I have experienced that sometimes if I go all around the edges and then come to the center, there may be a bubble in the center of my paper. So it's been my experience that I just have the best results if I go from one side to the next with my ironing. Now, I also do this quickly here, but I spend about 5 to 10 minutes actually ironing that off camera. And then I'll come back and lift it up like you see me doing here. Make sure that it's completely adhered all around our piece. Once I'm happy with the attachment, I'll then just grab a little piece of sandpaper and I'll go all around the edges. Now, it's a really good idea to take your sandpaper and go straight down, like a up and down motion, but you'll see me here going back and forth. And that's because I want it to blend the edges so there was a little bit of that natural wood. I love creating tissue paper or rice paper designs that have that tan hue because I am very partial to decoupaging wood and love to see things blend into wood grain. So this paper does just that. When I was completely happy with that, I grabbed some pegs. I mean, really, I think these are the little people from Dollar Tree, you know what I mean? But to me, I call them pegs. I don't use them for anything else. Then I grabbed some of my Type On Quick and Thick and my hot glue and just attached them to each one of the little corners on our riser here. One of my moderators loves DIY's Big Top, and she sent it to me to use. And this is actually my first time using this product. So I put a nice thin layer on the top. I let this dry for a few hours and then brought it upstairs and put it near the natural light so I could get an angle that you could see that this paper is flawlessly adhered to this wood plaque. Even the little dents are decoupaged in there flawlessly. I love how that natural wood is blending around the edge into the rice paper. It's absolutely gorgeous. And I added another one of my TDS Creative rice paper summer release prints in that little gold frame. And I think it just added the most perfect little accents. You have to let me know if you've come across these at your Dollar Tree ever and what you've created. We are going to get a little artsy fartsy with this beautiful wine glass that my friend held on to for me to upcycle. Absolutely love the etchings on this glass. It's stunning. Now, I normally skip this part in videos and just kind of tell y'all like I remove the sticky stuff, but this one actually gave me some trouble. So I want to share with you how I go about that because everybody does it differently. Normally I use a heat gun and it just peels off and everything's right as rain, but this one wasn't. So a lot of times there's different methods you can use. I just take a little bit of Dollar Tree's hand sanitizer and I'll smear it all over whatever ick is left on the glass. Let it set there for like 2 minutes. And then I will come back with my little scraper, give it a scrapey scrape, and then I'll take it to the sink with some hot water and a dish sponge and give it a wash, and it comes pretty clean. What do you think? We're going to create an ombre look on this glass, and that is going to require us to use at least 2 paints. And these are the 2 that I'm going with. I'm going to use a pouncer. I'm going to tappity tap 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 one color all over one whole section, and then I'm going to take the other color and come back in at the top to where they meet. Make sure that if you're going to be painting on glass that your paint is glass friendly. A lot of times it says it on the directions. I like to stop when I get to this point when I can see that there's a visible gap between the 2 paint colors. And then I'm going to start the blending process. You'll need to bring in a third pouncer. You'll have the one with your one color and one with your other color. And then you have what I like to call your blending brush. If you're using a paintbrush, I'm using pouncers here, and I'm spraying it with a little bit of water. And I'm just going over where the 2 colors meet. I'm just tappity tap tap tapping until they blend. I do have a napkin you cannot see off to the side. I continued to press, making sure I took the color off as it became saturated with both colors. So this way, every time I tapped and blended, it wasn't getting more white on one side. It wasn't getting more of that agave on another side. And then I did take some of the paint and sprinkle it down over top of our raised sections to just help the blend better. You can leave your piece like this if you would like. We're not going to do that. Instead, we're going to grab a dotting tool. And I've shared this a lot over the past couple years. I've literally painted glass and completely etched designs in through the paint. Chalk paint and multi-surface work really well to be able to do this. I decided that I was going to take the dotting tool and just carve out the larger sections where the design was. So this way some of that clear glass was popping through. If you notice that some cure has taken place with your paint and it's a little difficult to use the dotting tool to etch it, you can squirt some water off to the side or use a little bit of water, however you want to do it. You see me squirt some on the table, right? And I'm just dipping the tip in, and it's just kind of moistening that paint and allowing me to peel it back up in the sections. You can get as precise as you would like as with this, or you can keep it messy. It's entirely up to you. Like I said, for this project, I only wanted to do the large sections, and I was completely happy once it looked like this. For this next part, I'm going to take a section of this TDS decoupage tissue paper and cut out to put in the front of our decorative bottle. You can absolutely use a napkin or whatever you would like. I decided I wanted to use this little section right here to match the colors on the jar. anytime I'm creating decoupage art and I'm going to be blending rice paper, a napkin, tissue paper, regular paper into paint, I like to take a paintbrush with a little bit of water and tear all around the edges. I personally feel like if you're not doing an exact cut design that goes onto something for a blend, it blends better with the paint when the edges are frayed. And it's a preference. This is just what works best for me. So I took my time going all around the sections where the bottle had the design until it fit perfectly. Then I took my medium and put a decent amount all over the section that I wanted to place our piece in, and used my TDS decoupage fan brush to apply the TDS decoupage tissue paper. I'm taking my water bottle and spritzing just a little bit on the back of the tissue paper. I continue to get comments asking, can I napkins? People, don't do it to a napkin, please. Don't squirt your napkins with water. Please don't squirt them with water, okay? I mean, some people might tell you it's okay, but Brandy over here at the DIY Struggle is telling you don't squirt the back of your napkins and then place it down, okay? Rice paper, tissue paper, and not all of those things are created equal, so keep that in mind, okay? I know that my products, it's good to go with, okay? I set the bottle off to the side to dry and then grab some medium and some mica powder. Now, you could obviously do this. I've shared this also, this technique a lot. You can do this with multiple colors, but I wanted to kind of create my top coat with a sheen and a little bit of a shine, and glitter can get messy. I mean, mica powder can get messy too, but it holds up better for me when I use Mod Podge. I put some in this mix, just a tiny bit, because the more mica powder you use, the more that color will overtake everything. So the white just went over everything enough to blend it, or silver, just to blend everything and add a little bit of glimmer onto it. I let this dry and went and added a little bit of twine. And I don't know why I didn't film that part, but I just put a little bit of twine around the bottom. Put some twine on there, okay? Add some tacky glue, it'll be fine. And then I found some of my wine cork lid fairy lights. That's what I'm calling them. And I shoved them down in there. And look how amazing these pop through those little sections that we etched out. And the glow with the mica powder. This piece is simply stunning. I absolutely love these little pieces that I came across recently in Dollar Tree. They had 3 different designs, but I just grabbed these 2. I didn't really care for the third design, but seriously, I don't really feel like you need to do anything to these pieces. They actually look nice on their own, just kind of popping them in your decor. Sure, you could paint them up if you want, but it just so happened for me, the little section that I had staged here with my minis, they kind of blended in really well and added just a little something something into the shelf. Now, the thing is, when I seen these, I initially was like, candle holder. I don't know why my mind goes there fairly often. I love to decorate with candles. I don't really burn them, but I like the way they look. But I did feel like adding that candle on top of there, the candle needed a little something something. So we're going to grab one of my TDS Creative rice papers. I am often decoupaging candles with napkins, but did you guys know that you can actually decoupage candles with rice paper as well? And people, we're not going to have to use Mod Podge to do that. Now, not all rice paper is created equally. I can't speak for a multitude of other brands, but my own personal TDS Creative brand is porous enough that you're able to decoupage these onto candles and they turn out absolutely gorgeous. Just like with anything else, you're going to decoupage, you're going to trim your piece down to what makes sense. I like to always give about a 1/2 inch over the sides of my candles so I can trim it down and it leaves me room for error. Now, recently I discovered I'm not sure if you guys are hanging out with me on Whatnot Live, but I do craft live on platform called Whatnot. The link is down in the description box for anyone interested. But I recently discovered doing this live that if I fray the edges where they meet, it actually blends better. So I fray the edges on my candles now. When you're happy with that, it is time to bring on in the parchment paper, okay? I use a new piece of parchment paper for every single candle that I decoupage because there will be wax residue on top of the parchment paper. And then it's time to bring on in the heat gun or your blow dryer. You can use a blow dryer, okay? You don't have to have a heat gun. You can use a blow dryer. And you cut off whatever size parchment paper you need. I just do a small section and then I will move the parchment paper as I am heat gunning this sucker and it's adhering to the candle, okay? Everybody is different. You'll watch different videos. People have different techniques. And my recommendation is for y'all to use what you think works best for you. If you want to tape your parchment paper down, you go right ahead. And you can see here how that wax is coming up through the rice paper. I like to take my hand and do a little rub, rub, rub. It helps keep the candle even, and it helps to make sure that that wax is evenly spread over top of your rice paper or your napkin, whatever you're decoupaging, okay? You can see where it's translucent on the section that is attached to the candle, and it is still pretty white on the side that it is not. You just carry on with that until you're completely done. Then I like to bring on in my X-Acto knife to trim down the top and the bottom. And if there's any areas that look uneven, I will bring the heat gun back on in just to touch them completely up after I trim off any excess wax. Now I feel like these little decor pieces look a little better with a decorated candle on top sitting on my mini shelf. I do wonder what these are actually made out of, if I could drill a hole in them or what, because I have a couple other ideas I wouldn't mind trying out. The excitement I had when I seen these at Dollar Tree in their frame section, people, I wish I grabbed more of them, to be honest with you. And the reason I was so excited is because this glue was hanging off. I'm like, oh, are they making it easy for us to be able to take these apart to DIY with? Well, you're about to witness it with me. And spoiler alert, they did. This hot glue just peeled right on off from around that second layer of glass, making it super easy to remove the inside of this. So you can transform these using all kinds of different DIY ideas. And I'm going to share two of mine with you right here, starting off with turning this into a tabletop decor piece using these little mini vases. Have y'all seen these? Have y'all seen these? So they're kind of everywhere right now, and I picked mine up off of Temu. You could get these from Amazon too. They're little magnets for the fridge. Aren't they flippin' darling? These mini vases. How cute are these? Since we're going to be turning this into a tabletop decor piece, we're going to just chop that twine off. If you want to pull those staples out, you go right ahead. That was a battle I was not willing to go at. We're going to just display it without them showing. Next, we're going to take our Type-On Quick and Thick and declog it. And I know so many of you like watching me do this, so I left it in. It wasn't as aesthetically pleasing as it usually is, but this is what it is. Anyhow, these cute little vases have teeny tiny magnets on the back of them, and it's great because it allows them to be flat. And I just took a little bit of the Type-On Quick and Thick and popped a dollop on the back where that magnet is. And then I spaced these three little vases out onto the glass. If you want to put some little feet on here to make sure it doesn't wobble, you go right ahead. And if you want to leave the hanger on here so you can hang it on the wall, you can do that as well. I also decided to share another fun way to use this DIY. You can take those dry erase markers and write little sayings around your piece. Switch the florals out for the season, switch the saying out as well. And I just wanted to show y'all that you can easily take your finger and just wipe that marker right on off. For the second idea, we're going to be using a piece of my TDS Creative rice paper. Now you can take this idea and remix it using a regular photo if you would like. You could use tissue paper. You can do a multitude of things with this idea, and I am sure you have seen something like this hanging in a store somewhere. All we're going to do is cut the image smaller than the frame, so this way it's kind of floating in the center. You can do this idea with a transfer. You could absolutely do this with the dried florals and put the glass back. There are so many different ways that you can take this glass and DIY really beautiful things. Now I am going to decoupage this on here using my favorite Mod Podge for glass, and that is the dishwasher safe Mod Podge. However, I didn't rub two brain cells together before I got started. I did it on the wrong side. I put it on the wrong side. I sure did. Lucky for me, it didn't dry, so I was able to just wipe that right off real quick. Now use one of my fan brushes just to apply a nice thin little layer right in the center, and use my fingers to press this down. If you did not want to Mod Podge yours on here, you could absolutely use the double-sided tape and then peel it back off so you can switch out your design. There are so many different ways that you can put beautiful pieces in a floating frame that hangs on the wall. These would make for a beautiful cohesive collection. First up, we're gonna grab one of Dollar Tree's glass plates. I love these glass plates. They usually have them in the smaller size and this larger size. There are so many different ways you can decoupage glass plates, but we're gonna just decoupage the center of this piece right here using my golden aviary napkin. This beautiful design is actually on each square of the napkin, so you get 4 designs. It's also a 3-ply napkin, so you're just gonna, and again, you can tear off the sneaky layers on the back however you would like. I usually just tear off a corner, it reveals them, and then I pull them all off. And I often get asked what do I do with the excess. I usually just fold it up and then use it to clean up a mess or something, or spray a brush and get some paint off of it. I'm gonna take a little detail brush and just add some water onto that to trim out around the napkin where it's going to fit right into the center. You can absolutely trace it with a pencil if you would like and then cut it out. I am not the end all be all of decoupage, people. I just share what techniques I use depending on the project and why. So this way you guys make your judgment and then go create whatever you would like, whatever way you would like. I'm also going to be using some dishwasher safe Mod Podge for this piece. I am taking a little bit and just trimming around the edges and then pulling into the center of our plates. I'm often told that people didn't know there was multiple different types of Mod Podge, and there definitely is. To apply our piece, I'm going to be using a dry kitchen sponge. I picked these up in a pack from Walmart and just cut them in half. Plates are not porous, so a lot of times if there's excess, it spills up through those pores in the napkins and it can cause wrinkling and bunching. And on glass, you want to try and grab that to alleviate any of those issues that might make your napkin look gunky. And using a sponge will absorb that excess, and it also helps you press it pretty flat down into place. Use whatever technique you would like and whatever medium you would like. I've used enough mediums to know that certain ones will leave a hue over the glass, and the Mod Podge dishwasher safe just doesn't. It might be a little streaky, but it's clear with the finish. If you're comfortable with your decoupage game and you want to put Mod Podge all over the whole piece and slap your napkin down on that sucker, you go right ahead. A lot of times with napkins, I will do section by section to minimize the wrinkles, especially if I can't do the iron-on method. There are so many different ways you can finish a piece like this, especially when you're using glass. I decided to grab my Dixie Belle Gold Gilding Wax and trim around the edges. This is hiding them imperfections around the napkin on the center, and it's bringing out the edges around the plate. You could also add white paint onto the back of the napkin, so this way the design pops a little bit better. But I wanted to show you just how beautiful this is, and I love to give you different options for decoupage. You don't always have to paint the back of that glass. Napkins are still beautiful even when you can see through them. Decoupage is a great way to upcycle something, especially a little piece of glass. I was a little sad this bell didn't have no dingle hopper in it, but you know, we're gonna make the best of it. We're gonna cover over this little Nashville part right here. And before we start the decoupage, we need to put a base on there, okay? My favorite paint for glass, especially to prep for decoupage art, is Folk Arts Multi-Surface. You can use whatever you would like, chalk paint, whatever is good and says on the directions will work with glass, but this is my favorite. Since we're gonna be decoupaging such a teeny tiny piece, I want it just a teeny tiny design. And we're gonna take my TDS Creative, always this napkin, and tear out just the little couple dancing. Well, I tore out two. I'm not an animal. We're gonna decoupage both sides of the bell, okay? I'm not just gonna do one side, and then I use my scissors, you know, to make it a little bit more precise. It was a circle with some dents, so I was a little concerned about making sure that it fit in there pretty perfectly. For our medium, I'm just gonna use some good old Mod Podge and my TDS Creative artist brush in the fan style and put a thin little layer on here, and then just tappity tap 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 that little napkin bit right down into place. I did the same thing for the other side. Like I said, we're not animals. We're making sure it's completely done, you know. I mean, you could leave it. I definitely am. Don't let me start lying to you, people. Let me explain something to you. I've absolutely not finished the back of many projects in my days. Anyhow, once our decoupage portion was dry, I'm gonna grab a little pouncer and some chalk paint. Now, why are we switching up the paint? Because for me, it depends on the project with the type of paint. Now, for the base, I like using multi-surface when I'm prepping for decoupage, and honestly, multi-surface works best on glass. But for certain decor pieces, I like the look of the chalk paint on the outside of the glass. It also gives it a tiny bit of texture, which is what I was going for here. So I'm just adding a little bit onto the pouncer and tappity tap tap tap. And realistically, use whatever paint you want, okay? Use whatever paint you want, whatever floats your creative boat. Don't let me stop you, okay? I decided to leave the top of the bell little handle part crystal clear. I really like the way that that looked. You could have painted the whole thing, of course. And then I took some of my Dixie Belle gold gilding wax and went around and trimmed out the little accents of this piece, just making them pop a touch. Off camera, I did take a layer of Mod Podge to the whole piece before I added on the gold gilding wax. You could spray paint this with some clear matte if you would like. Entirely up to you how you would like to seal your piece. I'm going to dupe these really cool thin tall risers I found on Pinterest. You can also use some of Dollar Tree's scrap wood pieces for this, but my Dollar Tree didn't have any this particular day, so we're going to be rolling on with these. Feel free to use whatever wood you would like for this idea and remix it to what works best in your home. Now we're going to need to attach these joints, so I grabbed my Titebond Quick and Thick and some clamps. I just went one by one, smushing that Titebond Quick and Thick in there and then applying the clamps as I went. And then I allowed this to sit overnight. I used about 9 of these little planks, and when it was all dry, I grabbed some of my little snowmen that I collect from Dollar Tree around the Christmas time and some beads. I wanted these to be tall, you know what I'm saying? And those snowmen were not going to cut it. But sometimes I get ideas and don't really think things out very well. Now what do I do with you? I can't hold you for 30 minutes. Don't worry, your girl rubbed 2 brain cells together and look what I came up with. I just sat these right on top. Okay, like the cool thing about the Quick and Thick is like in 30 minutes, it's set enough that they're together, and then I was able to pop them on the bottoms of the riser with more of that Quick and Thick. I allowed this to dry for about an hour, and then it was stable enough for me to put a layer of paint. Use whatever paint you would like. I'm going with this Antique White by Apple Barrel because it's going to make a nice base for the decoupage tissue paper design we're going to put over top of here. Just make sure to allow the paint to completely dry before you start the decoupage portion, or paint it one color and then use it. You don't have to decoupage, but I decoupage everything if I can. Well, not everything, but it's my happy place, so I like to decoupage. Anyhow, I'm using this beautiful print from my TDS Creative line. It is called Avian Botanicals, and just cutting out a section over the top and the front. You could absolutely wrap your paper or napkin, whatever you want to use. You don't have to use this exact paper to be able to recreate this at home, and wrap your whole piece. I'm just doing the top and the front. I'm going to be using this medium and one of my TDS decoupage artist brushes. This is in the fan style, and put a nice layer of this. The cool thing about working with the tissue paper is if you put a little extra medium on there and you're just mindful with your placement, you really don't have too many mistakes to worry about. And I really wasn't worried if there was wrinkles involved in this. I like to take my water bottle and do a gentle spray on the back of this tissue paper for application purposes. It really helps to reduce wrinkles, but like I said, I wasn't overly worried about wrinkles. If you want to just take some Elmer's glue sticks and, glue some stuff, you do you. Okay, I can't do that. Since the side did have some bunching where the wood pieces met up, I just grabbed a little wad of cling wrap and smooshed it down so everything pressed in place together. You want to make sure that your piece is completely dry before you trim off the excess. This will allow a clean break whenever you're using a sander like I am right here to make sure everything is nice and tidy all around the edges. If you want to finish it up with some antique wax or some white wax, you go right ahead. I'm going to leave mine just as it is and add a layer of sealer on the top. I really love how this dupe turned out. We're going to be using this beautiful design called place cards to create some little placeholders using these old vintage wood thread spools. I'm just going to cut out two little designs on here that I feel match together and grab some of my thicker paper. Now this is 34-pound paper. Obviously, you could use regular paper, but keep in mind, regular paper does curl up if you wet it. The thicker paper doesn't so much. I just trimmed this down to size and then grabbed some Mod Podge to be able to attach our decoupage tissue paper. You could use regular Elmer's glue sticks, completely up to you. I actually don't have any of those. I figured Mod Podge would work just as well. I grabbed my little spray bottle and gave the back of the tissue paper a little spritzy spritz. This just helps make it a little bit more manipulable. You do not have to do that. You could leave it just as it is. I like to do that and help spread the paper out. It also helps reduce wrinkles. But if I'm being completely honest, wrinkles don't usually bother me. I know that they bother a lot of people though. Once I was completely finished with this, I just set it to the side to allow it to dry. Didn't take that long, about an hour. If you want to speed dry it using your heat gun, you can. It's completely up to you. I did grab a couple of my TDS dry rub on transfers and put on the sides of our little wood thread spools. I thought these would be a perfect addition since there were little bugs and we had some florals in the place card designs. And here's a little tip, people. Like I said, if you use regular paper, it's going to curl up a lot. And I noticed as these were almost dry, the edges were curling up just a smidge. So I took my heat gun and just went over it and was flattening it out with my hand, and that worked out perfectly. Then I trimmed up all around the edges so everything looked really nice. You could obviously use fancy schmancy scissors with the waves on there to add in that extra little bit of love around the edges. I was fine with mine being just straight. Next, I grabbed some of my TDS dry rub on transfers to cut out one of the little sections. The idea behind this place card design was to create exactly that, little place card pieces. And each one of the designs has a small area that doesn't have a lot of design, so you can pop a name, you can pop a cute little saying like this, whatever you would like onto your piece. You're able to use these as centerpieces, use them as place card pieces at little parties, sit them around the house with cute little inspirational sayings. They just add a really nice, creative, artistic, unique touch to your home or any party that you might be having. I grabbed some of my gauge wire to create the little place card stand that we're going to put inside the center of our wood thread spool. You can create these however you would like. It's actually fairly easy. It just takes some wire cutters and the needle nose pliers and a little bit of finagling. You can also tighten these or loosen these to customize how you want them to fit in here. You don't have to glue anything down. Just move the wire in and out to fit in that hole nice and snugly, and then pop in your little place card and put it wherever you would like. I'm going to be using my TDS decoupage tissue paper for our projects. This is called Avian Botanicals, and there's a lot of real estate to pick from on this piece. Please take these ideas and remix them using whatever tissue paper you would like. This isn't one type of tissue paper fits all. These tips and tricks should work with any type of tissue paper. First thing you should know about working with ceramic is it's extremely porous and a great idea to put a base on this. The base is completely up to you. There's no one size fits all here. You could use a good old multi-surface, a chalk paint, doesn't matter if it's artesian or budget friendly. Gesso works great. Pick a Mod Podge. There's multiple different variations to choose from. You could use an artesian type medium like liquid patina, but today I'm going to be using this beautiful folk art matte varnish. It's non-toxic, and I'll be using that for our medium and our sealer. And for the sake of our demonstration, I'm taking my water bottle and giving our ceramic piece a little spritzy spritz. Now, if this had been glazed over, that's going to drip off of here. And since it's not, we have to put us a base on here because our water is getting sopped right up. If we put our medium on here immediately and then expect to decoupage, our paper is going to be sitting there like, I wish I was sticking, but I'm not. I decided to roll on with the multi-surface. I've been painting on ceramics since I was a child, and the multi-surface for this type of material is just one of my go-tos. Feel free to work with whatever is best for you. Once your piece is dry, if you want to give it a test and see if it's still porous, grab your water bottle, don't be shy, and give it a little spritzy spritz. Your water should pool on the top or start running off the sides like you see mine is here. Dry it on up and you're ready to decoupage. For our application, I'm just going to be using my TDS fan brushes. These are perfect for decoupage. You can absolutely use whatever works best for you. Next, I'm taking that medium and putting it on our applicator, and I'm just doing a small section. I like to do it in sections. If your comfort level makes you feel like you can cover the whole thing and then slop on your decoupage tissue paper, you go to right ahead. This is just how I go about it. I'm then taking my water bottle and doing a little spritz on the back, and it gives us the ability to manipulate that paper and bend it a little bit more. In my opinion, it also helps that medium to kind of soak up into the tissue paper. If you want to use some cling wrap or a brayer at this point to attach your decoupage tissue paper, you go right ahead. I use my fingers most of the time with my tissue paper and my rice paper, usually smooths them out well enough. But if you're very particular with wrinkles, make sure you're using what's best for you to accomplish getting that wrinkle-free look. For the sake of keeping one of the designs on the decoupage tissue paper complete, I cut this short so it does not wrap completely around our ceramic piece. So I figured I would take this opportunity to teach you all a little trick how to take this idea and create a unique design that will make it look like one whole piece. I'm going to take my homemade texture paste here and put a little bit off to the side and mix it with some green paint. You could obviously leave yours plain if you want. And if you don't want to do texture, you could absolutely use some regular paint. That would work as well. I'm just using texture. I feel like this gives it a little something extra. And if you don't want to make your own, you can absolutely order texture paste off Amazon. Then we're going to take a stencil. I'm just going to cut out a section of one of my TDS stencils, and I'm going to then take some painter's tape and tape it down into sections. So this way it's not moving all over our cylinder as we're trying to apply the texture paste on top. While the video is going to give you the impression that this is super easy and quick, people, it took me about 20 minutes to get this on here, so it wasn't bleeding through everything. You could absolutely spray some sticky adhesive on here. It's up to you. Next, I'm taking the same paint that we did on our ceramic piece, and I'm going in all the little sections, covering up where we can see that paper ends and we have just our ceramic piece. When I'm happy with that and that's all dry, I'm going to come back in with like a little, I call these like little baby chippy brushes, and I'm going to do a dry brush all around the whole thing and then put a nice layer of our sealer over top. For this busted canvas, we're going to just take some TDS decoupage paper and tear a little section out of one of the designs. This is one of my favorite designs. It's called Avian News. And I wanted to share this with you all because I know so many of you love birds. And since you can kind of tuck things in the canvas, thought it would be super cute if we tucked a little bird's nest in here. For our medium, I'm just going to apply a little layer of Mod Podge. And since the backing is white and our decoupage paper is white, I'm not going to worry about painting anything, and I'm not going to really worry about going over the decoupage paper either. I like how the words are on this piece right here. So for the front of the canvas, I went and grabbed a piece of A4 TDS rice paper and attach that to the front of the canvas. So there was kind of like some blend with the writing. I painted the back of the front of the canvas green and went straight down with my cut for the busted section. And then I decided to kind of go sideways with them, so it kind of opened to the right and to the left. I took some of my favorite paper clay and popped it into a mold just to create a little piece to add at the top of our busted canvas. It needed just a little bit of something to add to this top portion. I had these little bird's nests in my stash that I picked up last year from Hobby Lobby. I tucked it right in the corner and it just looks so perfect in this piece. Absolutely love how this turned out. You're gonna want to grab a canvas for this Dollar Tree Mod Podge DIY. Now, one of my favorite canvases from Dollar Tree are these larger square pieces. The 8x10s will work just fine. You can use the smaller ones, realistically, whatever one. We're going to make a large piece of wall decor with this piece. And that's because I found this joint at Dollar Tree. I was like, oh my gosh, when I seen it. Now, it just says wall decor on here, okay? But realistically, it's going to serve as like our 3D pop out. And if this makes sense, anybody that likes like doing clay and stuff like that, you guys just roll on with me. It'll make sense in a minute. First up, we're going to need to hit that background with the design. So this way we have a 3D effect to have that butterfly pop out. We're going to use my TDS Creative Decoupage tissue paper. How pretty is this design? How beautiful is it? I'm so excited we're using this piece. Now I'm just kind of centering it on our canvas, and then I'm using my hand to just measure out, and then I'm going to cut just a little bit wider because I want to wrap around our piece. For our application, I'm going to use my 3-inch TDS Creative brush. People, if you have never decoupaged a canvas, especially if you're a beginner, I highly recommend using them to get started. They're inexpensive. They come in multiple different sizes, so you can try your hand at different decoupage techniques and materials and not spend a lot of money. So if you make a mistake, it's not a big deal. Now, my tissue paper, I can spray the back. It helps to kind of manipulate the paper. You do not have to do this, and not all tissue paper is created equal, and I would definitely not do this to a napkin, but you do you. Who am I to tell you how to decoupage? Now, what I'm doing is just going to take a dry sponge and press the piece down. One of the reasons why I wanted to do this particular project is recently I've been getting a lot of questions about how to curve the decoupage tissue paper. And there are a multitude of ways to do that, but on a square surface, I highly recommend leaving a hangover, then cutting the corner diagonally. And then as you press your piece down, you'll snip the excess off, but still leave that diagonal corner on the opposite side. So as you're decoupaging your piece and you press that one down, you can cut the excess off and it won't leave a gap. And I slowed the footage down right here so you can see how there's still overhang after I've Mod Podged the other side down, and it meets up in the corner, and once you cut it off, it is all together seamlessly. Once I did that to all the sides, I then brought out my multi-surface paints and a pouncer to tackle this beautiful 3D butterfly piece. Now, in my mind, I thought that this would be a cool alternative to molds for people that struggle with molds. So I wanted to share how this is just another creative way for you to get that 3D effect at home. I applied 2 layers of multi-surface and then came on in my Waverly chalk paint because that multi-surface was taking me too many coats. When everything was all dry, it was time to finish it up, and I grabbed one of these beautiful potted hanger pieces from Dollar Tree, and we're going to use the rope as a hanger. You could absolutely put whatever hangers you would like onto the back of your canvas. This is just how I chose to go about it. Once I had it to the right height, I cut off the excess, and then I brought on in the stapler. Now, you could use glue if you want, but you know, any opportunity that I have to use the stapler, we're gonna staple. To attach our little 3D piece, we're going to just use some Titebond Quick and Thick, smush some of that on the back of there, and then hang our piece on the wall. I love those beautiful colors behind that white butterfly. There's so many different creative ways you can take this idea and remix it to match the decor in your home. You could paint the canvas, you could put different colors on the butterfly. Absolutely love. Next time you're in Dollar Tree, head on over to their Crafter Square section and grab one of their canvases. I grabbed these. Go ahead and pick up whatever you would like. We're going to be using them to dupe some high-end canvas decor I found on Kirkland's. Now, people, they're a little wonky, okay? Listen, it's Dollar Tree. We're, creating on a budget. Grab whatever canvases you want. I wanted to work with this shape. Okay, for the design on the canvas, I'm going to be using a TDS Creative decoupage tissue paper. Absolutely use whatever you would like. You can take this idea and remix it. I'm using the canvas just to kind of put around the decoupage tissue paper and figure out what section I want it to use. And next, I'm just kind of creasing it off. If you want to actually print out a photo and do this, or if you want to use gift wrap paper, something you download offline, this idea can be taken and used to create so many beautiful ideas. And the secret to making a faux canvas piece is some glossy Mod Podge. Well, use whatever glossy medium you would like. This is my go-to. Okay, I've used this stuff a multitude of times. You could use whatever medium you would like for the actual decoupage portion, but you need a gloss to create that end finish on the canvas. If you're doing this with a napkin, you want to go section by section, but since I'm doing it with the tissue paper, I just put a layer all over it. And then I'm coming in with my water bottle and giving the back of the tissue paper a little spritzy spritz. I don't recommend this with a napkin, but for rice paper or tissue paper, this will work out just fine. While the Mod Podge is still wet, I just take the tissue paper and gingerly press it down. And keep in mind, there are little raised sections on these canvases at Dollar Tree. It's not completely smooth, so if you're going to scrape over it, it is possible you'll pop little holes in your decoupage paper. Just be gentle, okay? If you want to use some cling wrap, that'll work too. Allow it to completely dry and then bring on in your finger sander, whatever kind of sander you would like. I'm just going to use my little finger sander here. You can pick these up at Walmart. This one is from Temu for anyone interested. I get asked that a lot. And then just straight sand off the excess using an up and down motion. Make sure to dust away any extra crusty bits laying around, and then grab some more of that glossy Mod Podge and apply a nice juicy layer all over the top. Allow it to completely dry, and then you have a beautiful glossed over piece that looks like a faux canvas that you can display in your home.